The fade-in is a transition invented by George Méliès. The fade-in is a continuity technique used in storytelling when opening a scene. With regards to the fade-in or the fade-out, the audience is becoming aware that the focus is being moved from one scene to another scene. Fading out to black and back in from black, one is aware of an apparent passage of time in the sequence. With the fade-in, George Méliès used this technique in The Trip to the Moon, when we were going from one scene to another scene. Back then, this technique was used for storytelling, but it has been developed as effects are also included when using fades. As of today, fades are now not only used for storytelling but also used to create drama. In The Trip to the Moon, George Méliès used a jump cut. The point in which this technique was used was when the moon was gradually growing bigger on the screen. As it was growing bigger, an object suddenly came into the moon's eye. Just as it was then, the jump cut is used to manipulate time and space and break the pace. It is also used for entertainment purposes. Early cinema editing developed and influenced the modern, as the modern film editors were influenced by early film pioneers and wanted to bring development to the modern audience. With Kubrick, we had the Space Odyssey. With Hitchcock, we had Psycho. With Godard, we have Breathless, where he used jump cuts invented by George Méliès, which Godard was still using later on. Now, montage and discontinuity have lost their purpose and meaning in favour of stylistic use, as this was said by a man who goes by the name of Tarantino. Tarantino states that transitions have lost their meaning because it's too common.
Get it right. Well, now you hit a button and then dissolves perfect every single time. So now all of a sudden every movie you watch has 10,000 dissolves in it, and you wonder why the film's getting slightly boring.
An example of why he would have said this is because of the Hulk trailer.
That covers up its total lack of action with super wacky scene transitions. Wow, it's just like reading a comic book. A terrible, boring comic book.
In this Hulk trailer, the film editor found it easy using transitions, which is the reason why he used so many. However, he overused transitions and used what we would call childish effects. Why did the New Wave set out to break continuity? Godard was part of the French New Wave movement. The French New Wave was an art cinema opposed to Hollywood cinema. He was using discontinuity intentionally to break the 180-degree rule. This was because of influence, as him breaking continuity was an influence from George Méliès, as he witnessed him using the jump cut. Jump cuts were used to break everything that Hollywood had made to upset them because of art. Now this was generally the intention of the French, as they wanted to tear down America's dominance by challenging the audience on what they knew. Also, these people were auteurs, and auteurs purposely broke continuity for art purposes. Example of this would be Breathless.
Tu ne l'as plus?
Elle est au garage. Allez quoi, je reste avec toi.
De toute façon, j'ai mal à la tête.
Continuity techniques are still used up until today. An example of a technique is the cross-cutting. This technique is where you have two shots taking place in two different locations. But when these scenes are edited, they are edited to show the audience that these two events were taking place at the same time. The duty of the editor is that he has to edit in a way that it goes from one scene to the other scene and back to the other scene, and this is repeated using one of the 5 different types of montage editing. The montage that would be used when editing would be rhythmic editing. This technique is used to make things more interesting by adding tension and mystery, engaging the viewer with the development of drama. Here, we have a film titled Inception, a film in which this technique was used. You can see that the shots were cutting from one scene to the other, rhythmically. Not only were they cut with rhythm, but they were also cut from one scene to another at a fast pace. The increasing tempo of editing was invented by Griffith, and this creates tension and suspense for the audience, also developing drama. This is why this is a montage editing, as continuity was just for storytelling, whereas with montage, it was to make the audience think. Montage and discontinuity techniques have developed from early to modern to challenge continuity and their purposes, as Eisenstein used montage to make the audience think. He used this in his film called Strike. Méliès used jump cuts for disappearing and reappearing effects to make his films more interesting for the audience to watch. One of the films where this was used was The Trip to the Moon, but when Godard saw it, he was influenced to use it in one of his films, Breathless, where he had the guy in his stolen car before he started getting chased by the police. This was used to break continuity as he wanted to create his own style. This was also to manipulate time and space. Hitchcock used montage in Psycho to create a meaningful impact by using cross-dissolving when the shot went from the dark hole to the mid-shot of the woman's eye. This technique was used in a way to show the audience that she was nearing her death. The purpose of montage was to make the audience think. Discontinuity was to break continuity, as America's continuity was dominating the film industry.